Let's solve this quadratic equation by completing the square, and in this case we'll be solving a quadratic equation where a, or the coefficient of the x squared term, is equal to 1. So the first thing we need to do is make sure that we have our terms in the correct order in descending order, which means the x squared term, then the x term, then the constant equals 0. And we're all set for that. So the next thing we want to do is get this constant out of the left side of the equation over to the right side. So we do that by subtracting 4 on both sides. And that gives us x squared minus 6x. And I'm going to leave a space there. Oops, equals, not 0, but negative 4. And I left a space here because we're now going to complete the square. So we're going to add a quantity to both sides of the equation. And the quantity we're going to add is whatever is necessary to turn the left side into a perfect square trinomial. And that's why it's called completing the square. And what we always will add, you can always use the exact same recipe for what to add here. Always add half times the coefficient of the x term, which would be negative 6, squared. So in this case, that would be half times negative 6, and think of this as negative 6 over 1. So this would divide out 2, and we'd be left with negative 3 squared. Negative 3 squared is 9. So we're adding 9 to both sides of the equation. And the only reason it's being added on the right side is just to balance out the 9 that we added on the left. And by adding it on the left, we have a perfect square trinomial. So we have perfect squares on both ends, and the factoring is going to be the square root of the x squared, which is x, square root of 9, which is 3, and then keep the middle sign, negative in this case, squared, so it'll be x minus 3 squared. And just to convince yourself that that works out, you can look at x minus 3 squared is x minus 3, and if we FOIL it out, we get x squared minus 3x is minus 6x plus 9. Alright, so if you follow this recipe right here of what to add to complete the square, you'll always get a perfect square trinomial, so you can always factor it by saying the square root of the first term, square root of the last term, keep the middle sign, and quantity squared. And that equals negative 4 plus 9 is 5. And now we have something squared equals a number. So by the square root property, we can square root both sides. And make sure we put in the plus or minus to show both possibilities here. If x minus 3 squared is equal to 5, that means that x minus 3 itself must equal either the positive or negative square root of 5. Alright, so squaring or square rooting something that's squared will just give us the base. And now we can solve for x. X minus 3 equals plus or minus root 5, so we want to isolate the x by adding 3 to both sides, and we get x is equal to 3 plus or minus root 5. So that would be our answer for the quadratic equation by completing the square. And sometimes the answer is shown separately, or the two solutions are shown separately, so you could say x equals 3 plus root 5, and x equals 3 minus root 5. Or you can combine the plus and minus options into one symbolism.